Hi, everyone. My name is Rafi Shulman. I'm the co-founder of Olim Advisors. Welcome to tonight's webinar. It's great that you can join us. I just want to apologize a bit in advance. I actually just recovering from COVID, so I'm still coughing a bit, and especially when I talk for any extended period of time, I tend to cough, so I apologize in advance. I want to take a moment and introduce the other Olim Advisor team members who are going to be joining us tonight. Risa Shapiro, who's one of our Olim Advisors, coordinators, consultants, is in Jerusalem. And then Laura Itzhaki, my partner, actually was having some technical issues in her office, so she's going to join us in a few minutes as well. What's amazing when I do these webinars is that we have people from around the world. We have almost 200 people that have registered tonight, which is amazing. And I find it so inspiring that people are moving forward, and either they're planning their Aliyah, maybe they're planning their pilot trip, or maybe it's people that have made Aliyah already that are living here in Israel for a year or 3 years or 5 years and really want to make the best of it. They want to make a good life for themselves. And so we're happy to be here and happy to share information with you and guide you and help you in any way that we can. And, it's great to have you here. So welcome. A few quick things before we get started. The first thing is that we will be sharing our contact information at the end, so feel free to reach out to us. And that's really the reality of this webinar, is that we're not going to be able to talk to everybody and get into everyone's situation. So we encourage you, we invite you to reach out to us. We'll be happy to schedule one-on-one calls and really help you with the process as you go through it. The other thing is that you can post your questions in the Q&A and the chat box. We will have a Q&A session at the end, so just go ahead and type it in there, and then we will get to it towards the end of the session. And the last thing is, yes, we will be recording it. So if you need to leave early, we're not going to hold it against you. We'll send out an email within the next couple of days with a link to the recording, so you can watch it again, and you can watch any parts that you missed. And of course, feel free to share it with anyone else that you want to. Risa, can you hear me okay? Just give me a thumbs up. We're good? Awesome. Okay, so just I want to go through and give you a brief introduction into Olim Advisors. And here's my partner, Laura, who's joining us. You can get a chair from Aviva's room, from Eliana's room. So Laura and I started Olim Advisors back in 2016, and really we had two main goals in mind. The first goal was to encourage people who want to make Aliyah. So a lot of people have been thinking about it, dreaming about it, planning it, and they're just not quite sure what they should do, what comes first, what's the process like. And so we want to let them know that, first of all, yes, you can do it. And second of all, it's definitely something that is manageable, and we can help you along the ways. The other thing is that we want to let you know that we will be here once you get here. And so once you make Aliyah, then we will help you with the day-to-day things. We will help you with going to the government and going to the bank and doing things like that, and really helping you make the decisions before Aliyah and after Aliyah as well. And part of that, of course, is finding a home in Israel. And that's one area that we've gotten involved in lately, is helping people through the buying process. So a lot of Olim don't necessarily buy before they make Aliyah, but once they're here for 2, 3, 5 years, then they want to buy at that point. And so they're turning to us and asking us for advice, and we're happy to help them. So that's just a little bit about what we do, and a little bit of our background. Okay, so before we get started, I'm just going to unplug actually my headphone from here, just so Laura can join.
Hi, everyone.
Risa, can you hear us now? Okay, excellent, good. A little bit of technical problems, but we solved it and we're ready to move on. So let's go through the agenda first, just to give you an idea of what we're going to talk about. So really, we talked about 4 groups that we want to help. The first one are the people in the 50 years old and older, who are either making Aliyah or living here, and they of course have certain challenges and certain concerns, and we want to give you information, and we want to guide you and help you. The next group are people who are coming with either coming with children who have special needs, or maybe living here and have children with special needs. And there's a lot of amazing programs. There's a lot of support from the government, and so we want to help you, know what those programs are and help you take advantage of them.
The other group is focusing on people that have healthcare issues. So whether you're making Aliyah here, navigating the Israeli healthcare system can be challenging and frustrating. So we definitely want to guide you. And last but not least, we want to talk about people who are looking to to buy a home, talk about some of the challenges, and talk about how we can help you. Okay, so with that in mind, I'm going to go ahead and start with people who are 50 years and older. And the picture here is of a lovely couple, Gary and Rose, that I actually know for many years. They made Aliyah in their 70s, and they're like the poster children or poster people of people who are making Aliyah, and they're as happy as they can be. They really living the dream. And whenever we have them on the webinar, they just inspire people. And so it's just an example of how you can make Aliyah at a later stage in your life, and you can be extremely happy and successful here. And so there's a few challenges, a few concerns that a lot of people that fall into this group have. The first one is from a financial point of view, the cost of living. What do you do with the investments, your homes, things like that? How do you make sure that you get here and you're comfortable, right? Because the last thing you want to do is come to Israel and then be stressed out, be in a financial situation that you really can make ends meet, and that really is not a good situation to be in. The next concern, the next challenge is healthcare. And as I spoke about just briefly, you want to make sure that you have that you're covered, right? There's a lot of issues that come up as you get older, and you want to make sure that you have the right health coverage. You want to make sure you have access to the right medicine, and so on and so forth. And the last thing is, where do you want to live? Not just physically, but what does your lifestyle look like? And so we'll talk a little bit about that as well. So let's start with the first topic, the financial side of things. There are a few things for you to keep in mind. I would say the most important thing is to spend time and budget. And keep in mind that your budget in Israel could be very different from your budget from the US, UK, South Africa, Australia, wherever you're coming from. And so really go through, and we can help you with this. Go through and try and estimate what your cost is going to be, and break it down by expense. What's your rent going to be, or your mortgage, or your shopping, and your gas, and your entertainment, and so on and so forth, so that when you're making Aliyah, you're coming with your eyes wide open, right? You know what it's going to cost, and you want to make sure that you can afford it, right? If you, after you do the budget, you realize that actually you're going to be living above your means, then there are things that you can do to lower your expenses. You can buy a used car is a big thing that can really save a lot of money. You can go ahead and you can live in a more affordable city. So not everyone can afford to live in Yerushalayim or Tel Aviv, and so there's a lot of wonderful places where you can move to that are more affordable. There's your lifestyle in general. Do you want to buy or rent? If you're going to buy, there's a number of financial factors or issues you have to think about. One is the large mortgage that you have to put down, and then it's the monthly mortgage payments versus the rent. And in Israel, unlike a lot of other countries, the rent often can be a lot less than your mortgage payment. And so that's something that you need to really think about and do the research beforehand. What is the rent's going to be in certain areas? What is the cost of buying? And then on the other side of the equation, how can you supplement your income? Even if you've retired, you might want to get back into the workforce and be a consultant or work part-time. First of all, it will definitely help with the income, but also a lot of people find it, really enjoying and fulfilling, where they can work with startups, work with companies, leverage their experience, leverage their contacts, and still, continue working here, maybe, on a lesser pace, but still, generate some income and make the financial situation look better. So that's really the first topic, the first concern. The other one is healthcare, and Laura's going to talk about it in a few moments and get into a little bit more detail. But the first one is picking the right HMO, Kupat Cholim. You want to make sure that you're picking the right one, and it really depends on a number of factors that Laura's going to talk about. And then what goes along with that is making sure that you have the right coverage. And so you have basic, and then you have different levels, and you want to make sure again that you're not in a situation where you have to pay out of pocket for some medical procedure that you're not covered for. Another thing is finding the doctors, and this is something that you can do or should do beforehand. If you do need a special doctor, like a cardiologist or a special kind of doctor, then you want to make sure that you find good doctors in that specialty, and this is something that we can help you with as well, to come here and you already have those doctors in place so that you can go ahead and see them. And last but not least is make appointments in advance. And again, that's socialized medicine here, so there's a lot of benefits, but one of the downsides is that you have to wait very often for the next appointment. It could be a few weeks, it could be a few months even, and so that's just something that you want to keep in mind. And it's really very different in Israel than it might be in the country that you're coming from. So that's the second kind of category. And the last one is, what is your lifestyle? Where do you want to live? Somebody once gave me kind of advice that I like to share with people. And I tell them, close your eyes for a moment and think about what you see when you walk out of your home, whether it's an apartment or a home. What do you see?
What do you want to see?
Oh, what do you want to see? Yeah. Do you want to see a lot of buildings, and do you want to see a lot of grocery stores and a lot of people and public transportation? And do you want to live in an urban kind of environment in the city? Excuse me. Or do you want to just see, hills or the ocean and kind of peaceful and, and a place where you need to drive to go to the supermarket? And, that's part of kind of the practical factors is if you're not going to buy a car, then you want to live in a place where there is public transportation and you can just walk for a few minutes to the grocery stores. And so really thinking about what you want, what you can afford, are really important decisions that you need to make to give you an opportunity to enjoy this stage of your life and really make sure that you're living here happily, without a lot of the concerns that people have. All right. So now we'll talk just for a moment about how Olim Advisors can specifically help you with this. And we talked about it a little bit, and I'll go through just some of the things. And then, of course, we can always talk one-on-one and get into more details. But the main thing is the pre-Aliyah, understanding what you need, because no family, no individual, has the same situation as the next person. And so we spend time and really understand what your needs are, what your concerns are. We help you plan. So with the Pre-Aliyah Checklist, we talk to you about finding a community, talking to you about what you should ship, what you shouldn't ship, things like that. And that's really in the pre-Aliyah stage, right? And then when it comes to getting here, that's when we also help you navigating the healthcare system, like we talked about scheduling and dealing with the bureaucracy, which for many people is a big concern. It's a big worry, especially if you don't speak Hebrew or if you don't know the system. We will take care of this for you. So instead of waiting for weeks and months to take care of all the bureaucracy, literally within a few days, we will help you. And so for a lot of people, that's a big sigh of relief. And then, of course, specifics like setting up your utilities and converting your driver's license, UPAN and Arnona, which is municipal taxes. There's a lot of things that you need to take care of. And so we've put together packages that really from A to Z will help you. And many people will sign up actually 6 months to a year beforehand. So the package starts when you sign up and then continues for 6 months. As you can see, you have a long period of support, which for many people, that is really gives them the peace of mind. And then, an extension of that package, which is the 50 plus all inclusive. In essence, what we do here is for people that need that extra support beyond the 6 months, we extend it for another 6 months. So you have a full 12 months of support after Aliyah. And then an important part of this process for people who can is make a pilot trip. And thank God, now people can start doing that. The borders have opened up, and so people are, we're planning pilot trips with people. And so if you can come here for a week to 2 weeks, we can help you plan it and really make sure that you see, everything that you need to see and meet the people that you need to see, and, help you make that decision as to, where you want to live and what your lifestyle will look like. So this is just a brief overview of what we do, and, we'd be happy to talk to you about it in more detail on a one-on-one basis. Now, Laura, I'm going to hand it over to you to talk about families who are either coming with kids who have special needs or families who are living here and have kids with special needs.
Hi, everyone. I'm Laura Stuckey, co-founder of Olim Advisors. So for families that have children with special needs, whether you're Israeli, just made Aliyah, making Aliyah, can everyone hear me? Okay. Even for Israelis here that have lived here their whole lives, it's such a challenge to understand the system, to understand how to go through the process, to advocate for your kids. If you don't speak Hebrew, then it's not your language, and it's beyond overwhelming. It's terrifying. So what are some things that are important to do? If you are making Aliyah, before you get to Israel, is to make sure to have all of your documents, all of your child's documents in order. Get all of the evaluations, make sure that they're signed evaluations. If there are tests that need to be done for the evaluations, make sure to have a copy of all of them, a summary of them. If your children go to different therapists, make sure to have a summary for each one of those therapists. All this is going to help so much once you get here to Israel. Now, a few things. Firstly, the chances are you're going to have to get your evaluations translated once you get here. And that's important to know. And also, each child is different. Each evaluation is different. So it's really on a case-to-case basis. It's very important if your children are taking any kind of prescription medicine to have with you once you make Aliyah. Again, I'm talking about if you're making Aliyah, to try and have at least 3 to 6 months worth of medication. Sorry, we're getting past Corona. We're all over Corona. Some side effects. And so to make sure that you have prescription medicine for at least 3 to 6 months. And then once you do get to Israel, to make sure to make an appointment as quickly as possible so you don't run out of the prescription. Obviously, if you're here already in Israel, then you are in the system, and that is simpler. Another thing to know is that there are different programs available in different parts of the country, and it is very, doesn't necessarily mean that you're going to be able to find a program in your neighborhood. So it's important to do research on where you want to live, where you are living, and research about different programs available in different parts of the country. And it is common here that children get bused. They have special buses that go to different places, and there really are incredible programs for different conditions, for different types of situations all over the country. And again, the more research that is done beforehand, the more comfortable you feel, the more less anxious, because you have more answers to your questions. So what exactly do we as Olim Advisors, how do we help families with children with special needs? So the first thing we do, as Afi mentioned before, we have an initial consultation. We speak with the parents to understand what the children's needs are, and to really get an understanding of what's needed. Once we do that, we send a checklist. If they're making Aliyah, then it's things to do before Aliyah and after Aliyah. And if they're already here, what to do here. Again, it's a process that to this day, Israelis tell me all the time. They don't know what to do, how to do it, how to get through the system, how to advocate for their children. So it's so important, both for Olim making Aliyah and for people living here in Israel. We do help select a program. We help research a program. And then finally, what we do is also it may be that a child with special needs has rights through Bituach Leumi, which everyone in Israel says Bituach Leumi. It's like terrifying. It's this organization that no one can deal with, but we do. We help fill out the paperwork. We go through the process. If you need to go to meetings, then we walk you through it. We explain to you what to do. And more than that, we empower our parents. We empower the parents to actually learn how to do these things by themselves, because we may be with them for 6 months, for a year, but then they're going to have to continue working with and dealing with Bituach Leumi, and this is something that's very, very important. You need to know, a parent needs to know in the future how to be able to advocate and get their children's rights. So this is our how we help families with special needs. And again, as Afi mentioned before, this is an overview. If you have any questions, reach out to us, and we can speak to you one-on-one and see how we can help you. The next big thing that we help with is healthcare. So healthcare is an issue that we all deal with, whether we're 15, 20, 30, 60, 90, everyone has concerns. How to make a doctor's appointment, a dentist appointment, and more so when you have some sort of special medical condition. So just to give quickly an overview of the medical system here in Israel, we have a national healthcare, which every person that's an Israeli citizen is covered by. And the national healthcare is covered or carried by 4 kupot, and we get to choose one of them. It's Maccabi, Clalit, Leumit, and Me'ochedet. And the way that we choose one of the 4 is usually by geographic location. In other words, different areas will have, one of them is stronger, meaning there's more offices, more doctors. We do the research to see if there's a specific doctor needed, whether it's a specialist, and if you want a doctor speaking English or whatever language. So you would pick that one kupa. And just as an aside, you can always have the option. There are several times a year where you can switch from one to the other. And also different family members can be in different kupot. And in each kupa, there are different levels. There's a basic level, which is for free. And then there's what's called the supplemental. The supplemental includes things like dental and eye care and therapies like physical therapy, speech therapy, things of the sort. If you're a person making Aliyah, you do choose one of the 4 before you make Aliyah, but then you have to physically go into one of the offices to say which level you want to be in. And it's important at that point to understand the basic level as compared to the supplemental. The cost is not exorbitant compared to what most of us are used to dealing with health insurance. My whole family is on the highest level of Maccabi, and I think it's well worth it. It's a few 20, 30 shekel per person, I think, a month difference, even less. But it's important to understand these things. So now, again, what's important to do if you're making Aliyah with relation to the healthcare? So firstly, it's to really look and to see, once you know where you're living, is to understand the 4 different kupot and which one you'd like to choose. And then if you do have a medical issue or condition, is to do research into different doctors, specialists. It's hard sometimes to make appointments, so it's very important once you get to Israel to be able to make an appointment as quickly as possible. Another thing, as I'd mentioned before, if anyone is taking prescribed medicine, to bring 3 to 6 months worth of medication. And once you get here, to make an appointment as quickly as possible. So again, you don't run out of medicine. There's another thing called private insurance. It's not part of the national health care, but unlike the national health care, which covers all of us, doesn't matter what age we are, and doesn't matter for pre-existing conditions, private insurance doesn't cover everyone over a certain age, and different companies have different rules, and also it doesn't cover many of the pre-existing conditions. So it's important to know the difference and to look into that. Excuse me. Another thing that's important, it's something that has come out now in the last 2 years with COVID, many people are traveling. In other words, they're making Aliyah and not living in Israel for most of the year. And some people don't realize that they're not going to be covered for health insurance for forever. If Bituach Leumi sees that a person or a family has made Aliyah, but then after a certain point is not living here most of the year or at least half the year. And again, this is very important to speak to. We're actually going to have a webinar hopefully in a month or so with Ayala from the Shira Pransky project, and she'll go over things exactly. But it's important to know that if you're making Aliyah and you're not going to be living here most of the year, you have to understand that you may not at some point be covered by healthcare, and then you have to put things in place, whether it's private insurance from overseas or travel insurance or whatever it may be. Another thing is with the medications, not every medicine that someone may take may be covered. So there's something, just like there's a national healthcare, there's a national basket of medicine. And it's important to know before coming here if medicine that you're taking are covered in that national basket. So what does Olim Advisors actually do? How do we help different people with their healthcare? So again, it could be people that are living here in Israel and are having a hard time navigating the system. It could be people making Aliyah. It could be people that have a specific condition that are making Aliyah already living here. So the first thing we do is we have an initial consultation to understand really what the issues are and how we can help. And then we give them a checklist of things, very detailed, of things to do and get in order. And then we research whether it's a treatment center if needed, or what the treatments are here, what medication. We get lists of medication that people are taking, and we actually check to see if they're covered in the basket here. If they're covered, maybe they're covered but under a generic name, or if they're not covered, what the cost would be. And there are times where a condition may actually give you some sort of rights. So if that is the case, we would look into that for you and see if you have any rights, whether it's under Bituach Leumi, any kind of assistance. So those are the main points of the healthcare. And again, this is an overview. And if you have specific questions, reach out to us, and we'll be happy to set up a time to speak to you and to go over your concerns. And Rafi?
Thank you. Okay. The last topic is real estate, and as I mentioned before, there are people who want to buy a home before they make Aliyah, and of course, there are a lot of people that want to buy vacation homes or investments, and so we want to really help everybody. It's whether you're living in Israel and now want to buy your first home, or maybe it's your second home, or if you're not living in Israel yet, a lot of the challenges, a lot of the concerns apply really across the board. And so some of the concerns are where should one move to? The other concern is, should somebody buy or rent? The next one is, what's the buying process like? It's very different for many people than what they're accustomed to. And lastly, who can I trust as I go through this process? And so there's a few things that I wanted to share with you to keep in mind. In terms of where you should move to, what we recommend is that you first create a list of preferences. And that might be that you want to live near the beach, or you want to live in a warm area, you want to live near center of Israel, or you want to live you want to move to where a place that has good schools if you have kids, or you want to live in an area that has a large Anglo community, or maybe more of a mixed community. These are all preferences that are really important that you do, and it can change. Nothing's set in stone, but at least it helps you and us better understand what's important to you, what you like, what you don't like, and then what we do is, once you prioritize it, we look to kind of match up communities with your list of preferences. Is it likely that you'll find something that matches everything, that you check every box? Probably not. Sometimes you might get lucky, but what we've seen a lot is that if you have 10 preferences, you could find a community that may be 7 out of 10, and the other ones are close. And so I think it's really important, especially if you're looking to buy, right? Because as I spoke beforehand, if you're renting, you can always move. But if you're looking to buy, it's important that you do this due diligence, kind of think through it properly beforehand, and that will help you, it will help your realtors, it will help us, really help you zero in on what makes sense and what you should focus on. The second thing, like I talked about before, is buying and renting. And so budget is a big part, and of course it's a combination of two things. Typically it's the down payment, and then it's the monthly mortgage payments that you have to make. And so in the US, in Israel, there's a few things to keep in mind when it comes to buying. One of it is, typically you have to put down at least 25%, sometimes even more, depending on the bank, depending on the mortgage. And so that's a chunk of change. Homes aren't cheap here in Israel, and so that's a big investment that you have to make just in terms of the down payment. The other thing is, like I mentioned, your mortgage payment could be a lot higher than than your monthly rent payment. And so it's something that you really need to think about. And then of course, if you're renting, I always felt that when you rent, it's kind of like throwing money down the toilet. You're paying, and you don't have anything to show for it. So for many people, that's an important financial consideration. But renting also does give you the flexibility. So a lot of times when people come here, they think that they know where they want to move to, and then they end up realizing they want to move somewhere else. Maybe they have family members that move and they want to move. And so you have that flexibility with renting. The flip side of that, though, is the security, right? I know a number of families that were renting for a number of years, and then suddenly the landlord decided that he wanted to move in, or he wanted to sell their home, and now they have to pick up and they have to find a new home. And so you don't have that security that you do when you own a house, of course. And then the last thing to really keep in mind is what I consider lifestyle. You don't necessarily want to be house poor. So what I mean by that is, take all your money and buy something, and now you can't afford to go out, and you can't afford to go and entertainment and eat and travel and things like that. And so that's one of the drawbacks of real estate in Israel. And I don't know if you saw, but Tel Aviv was recently ranked as the most expensive city in the world. And so for a lot of people, maybe they say, you know what, I no longer need to own something. I'm just going to rent, and you could rent for 5 or 10 years and do a long lease. And that frees up a lot of your cash to go out and really enjoy the country and see and do things that you want to do. And so it's really a question of lifestyle, and everyone's different, and so there's a number of factors that go into this, but these are just some of the important things, kind of the pros and cons, if you will, of buying versus renting. Then the question is the buying process, and that's the question that we get a lot because, especially if you're coming from the U.S. and I think other countries have it as well. Israel doesn't have a central listing of homes. There's a couple of websites that have listings, but they're definitely not complete, and there are definitely some drawbacks to using those websites. And there's no central exchange or no central listing, and so you need to make sure that you're working with brokers who are well connected, who know the area. And so if you're looking to move to Modi'in or Ra'anana or to Nahariya or Haifa, you want to make sure that you're working with somebody that knows the area through and through, that can guide you and steer you, either towards certain areas or away from other areas, and really has a sense of what's available, right? So they have good connections with other brokers, and so they can say, you know what, here are 10 properties that are on the market, let's go look at them. So that's a really important thing to keep in mind. The other thing is that you will have to be able to move quickly, and I know that throughout the world, it's very, it's a buyer's market in many countries. But here it's kind of like a buyer's market on steroids. It's like really, things are selling. It's just unbelievable. You could put your house on the market and within a day you have multiple offers. And people are just very surprised when they see something and they want to take their time and think through it and get a mortgage and talk to a lawyer. And by the time they turn around, their property is gone. And so I'm not saying at all that you should be impulsive and jump on the first thing, on the contrary, but you want to have your ducks in order. You want to get an understanding of the mortgage process and what how much money you can get in terms of a mortgage. The banks are very conservative here, so you're not going to get as big of a mortgage as you could probably get from where you're coming from. You also want to make sure that you're pre-approved. Excuse me. So if you can get pre-approved for a mortgage, that will save a step and you can move faster. For a lot of people also, they need to transfer money to Israel, and the banks and the government now is very conservative, and they want to make sure that they know the source of funds. And so you want to at least do the due diligence, possibly even open up an account. You can open up an account at a bank as a foreign resident. There are different transfer companies that you can open up accounts with. And so all of this is just really setting you up so when you do find the property that you like, you can put in an offer and you can move quickly and you don't lose it. And then the last point that I wanted to mention is something that's called buying on paper. And what people refer to is in essence buying on a blueprint. And what that means is that a lot of projects, a lot of people, because there's so much demand, will look at a project that is still 2 or 3 years away from being completed. And so there's a few advantages to doing that. The first thing is that you can get a discount. So sometimes it could be 10, 15% because the developers want to incentivize buyers to buy early on. So that's a big advantage. Another advantage is that you can sometimes customize the apartment. So if you're working with a developer, maybe you want to change some of the layout, the families that want to move walls and do some things or decide what the kitchen's going to look like. And so getting early on is helpful, and especially for areas that are just sold out. There's nothing really on the secondary market or very little where you can buy from another seller. Then buying on paper, getting in early, gives you the opportunity to move in a bit down the road. The concern there, of course, is that you want to make sure that you're working with reputable developers, because there are a lot of horror stories of developers that have run out of money and then you're kind of stuck holding the bag. And so it's something that you need to be aware of and something that we can help you kind of do the due diligence. But it's definitely, in Israel specifically, a really good opportunity to get a more affordable housing or get a discount on housing and to get into some areas that you might want to go to. And then the last thing is that who can you trust? And so, like any market where there's, like any lucrative market, there are a lot of people, a lot of players in the space, from realtors and real estate lawyers and mortgage brokers and bankers and, you name it. There's just so many different people that are in it. And you have to be really careful about who you go with. It's not just good enough to go online and Google and go with an individual company that has a nice website and a few testimonials. Ideally, you'd want to get recommendations from somebody that you know, and ideally multiple recommendations from somebody that you know. Or this is one area that we help with as well, where we've done our due diligence and we've carefully selected mortgage brokers and realtors and real estate lawyers. And so you want to make sure that you're dealing with the right people, especially if you're doing it from afar, from abroad. So if you're looking to buy something and you're not here, then you really need to have people that in essence represent your eyes, your ears, your legs on the ground that can, exactly, to protect you and make sure that you're buying and you're getting what you think you're getting. And then the last point is what I was talking about beforehand, is that there are a lot of developers, a lot of great developers, a lot of shady developers, and you want to make sure that you're going with solid companies. You want to make sure that you're going with companies that are large, that have been around for a long time, and that have bank guarantees. That's in essence, bank looking at the financials, guaranteeing the project, and that gives you a lot of security. So it's just one specific point, something that you need to keep in mind as you're trying to assemble your team of professionals that can help you, find the property and close on the property. And what I'd like to just finish now with is really talking about what we do. And as Laura and as mentioned beforehand, we break it down into the process. The initial thing is really understanding what you need, what you're looking for, what your budget is, giving you suggestions. There's a lot of communities, a lot of developments that people haven't heard of. And so we're in Israel, we really have a good sense of what's going on. We also have, because of the relationships that we have with developers, we have access to some properties that aren't yet marketed, right? So if you're an investor, if you want to get in, there might be properties that they haven't started marketing, then we can let you know that you can take a look at and consider, which is something that a lot of people consider very valuable. We'll talk to you about the mortgage process and, kind of explain to you the ABCs of that, because that is important. We'll talk about communities and make a list of them. And I think that, what we're seeing now is that a lot of people are moving to areas that aren't the typical hubs, for Elim. And I think that it's exciting. It's exciting to see people that are moving out to the periphery. And I think there are a lot of wonderful communities to consider. We'll introduce you to realtors and a network of professionals, like I mentioned before. And that's going to be really a key, to make sure that we're protecting you. And really what we do is we're just, managing the process from beginning to end. We're not a real estate company, and that's a really important thing to keep in mind. So we don't have any kind of conflict of interest. Our goal is really to protect our clients and make sure that our clients are protected. So that's just, kind of an overview of some of the challenges that people have in the different groups and different needs, and, some of the things that you can keep in mind, and definitely the way that we can help you. So with that, what I'd like to do is pause kind of the presentation for a moment and just switch over to some of the questions that you asked. And so I'm just going to stop my sharing here. Actually, before I do that, let me just share with you our contact information. Yeah, we did the poll at the beginning. So this is just, this is our contact information. So if you want to take a moment and write it down, Risa also is going to be following up with you. And Risa, it's just amazing in terms of how she wants to help and really the ability to understand what people need. And so Risa is also going to reach out to you and see how we can be of help, but definitely feel free to reach out to us as well. And like I said at the beginning, we'll send out a recording with our contact information, a recording of the entire webinar, so you will have that as well. So let me just stop the sharing of our screen for a moment, and I just want to take a look at some of the questions that have popped up here, and we can go into them. Second, let's see here. Okay. Just going to scroll to the top here. Okay. We talked.
Okay, so people here are writing some specific things. So again, you can reach out to us. You can send us an email to either me or Rafi or Risa, and we can answer your specific questions.
And so Howard has a really good question that comes up now a lot, and Laura was alluding to it earlier. A lot of people want to make Aliyah. They want to get their citizenship now, but they're not live here. And so absolutely, you can come here. You can come here for a month or two, and we can help you with the process. You can get all the documents, your passport and everything, and then you're free to go. There's no commitments. Even if you're getting financial assistance from the government, you can definitely come here and then go back to where you're from. In this case, Howard's from California, and then move back here when you're ready. There are some implications with the health insurance and things like that.
Issue.
Right.
Because what will happen is that if you come here, you make Aliyah and then you leave, you're going to lose your health care, and then it's a big process to get it reinstated. It's possible, but it's quite a headache. So it's just something to think about.
Right. Okay, definitely. Somebody was just asking here about introductions. They're looking to get involved with startups, and while it's not something that we really focus on in terms of job placement, but we do have connections, and if we can help you in that direction, of course, it'd be beneficial. This person happens to be connected with investors, and Israel, as you probably heard, the startup nation. There's so many opportunities, and I know so many people who are in startups and companies that have been successful, and so there definitely are. There's a ton of opportunities here to connect. Well, let's see here. Oh, somebody's asking about reading Hebrew, right? And so the question is, what should you do? And it's a great question. There's a number of things, a number of apps that you can go to. Duolingo is one that I know of.
You can also do Ulpan online. You can do Ulpans. There's many different options of Ulpanim. You can just Google and see. There's private teachers. Once you do come to Israel, then you're eligible for two types of Ulpanim. There's a basic government Ulpan that is very intense. And then there are private Ulpanim, and you can actually do both of them. So it definitely is important. The language, getting the language skills as quickly as possible. If you can do it before Aliyah, it's amazing. And if not, once you get here.
A couple people asking about adults with special needs, and it's something that we need to get more information. The needs are different, but it's definitely something that we can talk to you about and let you know if we can help you. So again, reach out to us, or if Risa connects with you, let us know that this is your situation, and we'd be happy to to kind of guide you. So the question here about making appointments, and so that's an area, and how do you make appointments and get your kupat cholim, join a kupa?
So what happens is, again, if you're talking about making Aliyah, you actually choose a kupa before making Aliyah. If you're coming from the US, I believe it's done through Nefesh B'Nefesh. Excuse me. Excuse me. And then once you get here, you actually go into the office to get your physical card. So you get put into the system, but then you need to go into an office to get the card. And if you have more questions on that, then you can definitely reach out to us.
Right. There is a question here about opening up a bank account before you make Aliyah. So the answer is yes, you can. Foreign residents can open up an account. We need to talk about why you want to do that. If you want to buy a house beforehand, then we could potentially do that. But it's something that we can we can talk to you. But the answer is yes. You can make Aliyah. You can open up an account before you get your. Okay. Let's see what else we have here. So somebody's asking about looking to rent, and they have a limited budget, and so that's one of the benefits that we provide, is that we know areas, and what we'll also do is we'll put you in touch with realtors who know the neighborhoods and know the cities through and through. So there's some cities that have good neighborhoods and not such good neighborhoods, and so that's the advantage, is that we can help you kind of big picture and then introduce you to people who live and work in these different cities who can kind of steer you. And of course, it's all within your budget. So everyone has their own budget, and so before we even start the process, we'll figure out what you can afford, and make sure that you're looking in areas that are within your budgets. Okay. Let's see here. It's difficult to find rentals, so it depends, right?
It depends where you're looking. There's some areas that it's harder. It really is. It's like looking in New York City or looking in a suburb, or Texas. It depends. So obviously, in the bigger cities, it can be tougher. A place like Tel Aviv is not easy to find. Again, reach out, let us know where you're looking, and we can definitely help you.
Right. And also depending on your budget, of course, if you have a larger budget, then there's more options.
Not all medicines are available in Israel.
Right, but those that aren't, then very often you can find the equivalent of it that's available.
Right. So what they have is, again, we have a national healthcare basket. In there are all the medicines that are covered. Many medicines are, but there are some that are not. And then you can also have generic in the basket, but there are sometimes cases where medicine is not covered. And then it's to see if it's available here, and if so, what the cost will be. Sometimes the cost is not high. Sometimes it can be. So it's a very specific question.
Somebody was asking if we just help people mostly from US and Canada, and the answer is no. We've helped people from around the world, from Australia, South Africa. I just spoke to somebody from Holland and Czechoslovakia and Colombia. Right now, we only have help in English, so people need to speak English. But other than that, we're open to helping anybody. And so it might come across because we're from the States and a lot of the information is kind of from our experience. But no, we really will help anyone from anywhere in the world. Just feel free to reach out to us. Okay, let's see what else we have here. So the process about getting a passport.
Okay, so the process, I'll just go through this very quickly. What's going on right now is that the process for getting a passport before COVID was very different. People made Aliyah, and then they went to get processed for their Israeli passport after 90 days. When COVID hit and people had to travel back and forth, they got very nervous. So there's something called a waiver, and it's a legal term. It's really something that you have to understand what it means, and you can actually get a passport right after making Aliyah with signing this waiver at the Ministry of Interior. So you do not have to wait the 90 days, but the Ministry of Interior does not recommend that someone does this. That being said, many people have done it. If you are interested in understanding more about this, send us an email and we'll send you the information about it so you can understand it better and then make a decision. Either you make Aliyah and you wait the 90 days and then you get processed, or she can get processed for the Israeli passport right away with signing the waiver.
There are a few questions about the medicine, and I know you've done it a bit of finding. Is there something that somebody can just go as in English or like a list, or do you have to go into each profile and do the research?
Yeah, I haven't seen it in English. It's under the Ministry of Health. There's a few places where you can research it. And then you research to see if they have the actual medicine or maybe the generic by looking at the ingredients. I have to check if it's in English. And what I know, it's in Hebrew, but I'll definitely check. And if anyone wants to know about that, so let me know and I'll check for you.
We had a question here about a marina. Somebody's looking to place a boat. I don't have somebody off the top of my head, but Ashkelon, for example, is an area that really is up and coming, and I'm sure we can make connections, introductions
and
to.
Aliyah, the Maria, right. Definitely. So again, with these personal specific questions, reach out to us and we'll be happy to help you. Absolutely.
Somebody's asking here about pilot trip and when they should make it. And so what I would recommend, and if Tony disagrees, is really, I would say within 6 months to a year before you make Aliyah. It depends, of course, if you're coming with kids, because then if you're coming with kids, then you need to look at schools, and so that probably sooner than that.
Yeah, I would say a few months. If you're thinking about making Aliyah in the summer, I would say a good time to come is maybe January, February, because you might also want to look at homes and if it is a family, then you want to look at schools. So I would say anywhere from 4 to 6 months before you're making Aliyah is a good time to come on a pilot trip. And now it's possible, and it makes a huge difference. We just had clients that arrived and they thought of living in one neighborhood, and then we get a pilot trip and they fell in love with a totally different neighborhood, and that's where they're going to be. It's very different to hear about things and then to actually go and see things.
Right. And somebody was asking here about, one thing to keep in mind with that also pilot is that properties are typically available a couple months beforehand. So if you're looking to rent and you're looking to come in the summer, if you come too soon, you won't be able to see properties that will be available. So it's just something to factor in. And also, you should avoid the holidays. So if you're coming during Passover or Pesach or Hanukkah where the schools are closed, that could be problematic if you want to see schools. So just factor that in as well.
Someone's asking you about the latest quarantine status. It's like a joke in Israel. We don't talk about anything like that because things change sometimes on a daily basis. So it's really important to keep up. There are different websites that we can, or groups that we can share with you that give the latest information. But for us to say, it's just too difficult. And then someone's asking, are we realtors who work with the government or private? So we're a private company. We have a lot of contacts in all different government agencies that help to really make the process as easy and as smooth as possible. But we are a private company.
But we work closely with Nefesh B'Nefesh, and that's important. A lot of people, ask us how you different, and Nefesh B'Nefesh is amazing in dealing with the bureaucracy and getting you here. And then we deal with the practical challenges of finding the communities, finding the schools, finding the homes, and when you get here, really helping you settle in and deal with the bureaucracy. And so we work very much hand in hand or complement Nefesh B'Nefesh, the Jewish agency. And the case for our point of view is really providing people with the level of support that they need.
A few people have asked you about the monthly charge for healthcare. That's a good question.
It depends. I would say maybe a couple of hundred shekel per person or so.
I think per child it's much cheaper than that. I think it's maybe 20 or 30 shekel per child, and maybe an adult is close to 100. But it depends, and it depends on which kupa.
Right. And also, if you're working for a company, a lot of it comes out of your paycheck, and so there's coverage there as well for Bituach Leumi.
Okay, and I think the last question maybe, people are asking about our prices. So we have a lot of different packages with different prices, anywhere from the packages like the bureaucracy, which we didn't discuss, but on our website is $2,000. The VIP for the 50 plus is 4,500. But again, it can be going on for a year. It could be people signing up as early as they were before Aliyah and ending 6 months after Aliyah. We have a lot of packages. The healthcare is $2,000. The families with children with special needs is $2,500. So reach out to us to understand exactly what the cost is, what it covers. You can go on our website to see very, very clearly what we're offering, and then just be in touch.
Right. And I want to just stress as we end the presentation that we encourage you to reach out to us. You might just need a quick answer, or we can point you in the right direction. Of course, if you need more hand-holding and support, then we would love to help you, and that's what we're here for. But I would say 90% of the people that we talk to and message and on social media, they're just looking for a little bit of guidance, and we're happy to do that. And of course, for that, we don't charge anything. And so, if you need some help and you're not sure if you if you want to pay for it or you can't pay for it, reach out to us. Let's talk about what you need and talk about how we can help you. And then you can decide. The most important thing is really, like I started off, to just encourage everybody to go through this process, to make Aliyah. I really think that most people that get here with the right planning feel that it's the best decision that they've made for themselves and that they're coming with kids. And for people who are living here, for those of you who are living here already, it's really just a question of plugging away and understanding the system and sticking with it and being positive. And if we can help out, Laura, myself, or Risa can help out in any way that we can, we would love to talk to you. So, it's been a pleasure having you guys tonight.
Thank you for joining us.
Yeah, keep in touch. We have a Facebook group and a Facebook page and a YouTube page. And so we have a lot of resources, and we're planning on doing a lot of these webinars on an ongoing basis. So just keep in touch with us. And we look forward to helping you. Have a good week, a healthy week. Take care. Have a Shavuot Tov. Thanks, everyone.
Thank
WhatsApp
you.
group.
Bye.